thing we have to fear is
in war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we burn, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thank you so much for joining us today. Visit online at wallbuilders.com and at wallbuilderslive.com. This is a program you're going to want to go to the website and click on so you can share it with your friends and family. Got some amazing interviews today. They're really commentaries from veterans that have served us, and we want to celebrate Veterans Day in this way, bringing you some of these stories, talking about why that service is so important, talking about the sacrifices that have been made. Tomorrow's actually Veterans Day, but we're going to start today because we have so many cool interviews we want to share with you. First one we're going to go to has actually been a guest here on WallBuilders before. Dave Roever's got an amazing story. We've been honored to have him on several times before and wanted to lead with him today for our special Veterans Day programs. We're also going to have Lee Wreyford after that. Governor Rick Perry will be with us. Tomorrow we're going to have General Bob Dees, Colonel Brian Birdwell, who's a state senator in Texas now. Cheryl Pop's going to be with us from Honor Flights. If you're not familiar with that, don't miss tomorrow. Going to be incredible. We're also going to have Congressman Sam Johnson and his amazing story. It's going to be a phenomenal 2 days. You don't want to miss any of it. To get us started, Dave Roever, I want to encourage you to visit his website, daveroever.org. Now, that's DAVEROEVER. Incredible story, an amazing ministry. It's one of the ministries that Kara and I support every year. We just love what they do. Phenomenal work for those men and women that have served us, and we're just thrilled to have him with us. So here we have Dave Roever.
Hi, I'm Dave Roever. I served with the United States Navy Special Warfare Command as a brown water black beret. A lot of people don't know what that is because it changed its name several years after its origin to Special Boat Teams and Special Boat Units. And we are symbiotically attached to the Navy SEALs. And our job is insertion and retraction, getting them in and out safely as possible, which is not very possible most of the time. And I served in the Navy, of course, in 1969 in Vietnam, and I was attached to SEAL Team 1. I took my training from Navy SEALs, and through SERE training, S-E-R-E, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape training up at Whidbey Island, Washington. I had a great career. I enjoyed my work right up to July the 26th, 1969, when a sniper's bullet hit the hand grenade I was holding in my right hand I was trying to throw. I think he was shooting at my head, and he missed and hit my hand, and it blew right beside my face. It took 40%, almost 50% actually, of my skin, and most of my face, my ear, my hair, my chest was blown open. I could see my heart beating. My back was on fire, skin dripping off my arms. It was a miserable experience, to say the least. And I was hospitalized for 1 year and 2 months. One of the most important assets to all this, believe it or not, is that it left me scarred. And with my face totally reconstructed and my hands reconstructed and my arms and very visible in short-sleeve shirt, people are prone to ask, what happened. I always have a little fun with it. I always tell them I was burned bobbing for French fries, which isn't very considerate of them, I guess. But out of it, it gave me identification with today's warriors. And one of the most important assets that I have to this day is that when these warriors look at me, they don't question, does he understand? They know I understand, and the scars are verification in a huge way for that. The most important thing that I think I give the warriors today is through Eagle Summit Ranch for a location and Operation Warrior Reconnect for a program. We are not, and I cannot emphasize enough, we are not Wounded Warrior Project. We have nothing to do with those guys. What they do is fine, I'm sure. But we are not a project. We're not something you start and then conclude with a beach party and a beer. What we do is so much more. We are lifetime mentors. We work with these warriors from the time they start with us to as long as they live or we live, God willing. And we have a long and wonderful history in it. The warriors are trained in public speaking, which offloads most of the post-traumatic stress and in some cases all of it. We give them the tools to progress forward in a very intense way to be able to start their own corporations, whether they become writers as authors or they become public speakers or ministers or whatever they choose. Our primary goal is to give them the tools to do that. I think that if I were to say what I'm about to say, most people would think I'm sick, but I'm going to say it. I wouldn't change a day of my life. I feel like that the injury that I took that day in Vietnam only prepared me for this day in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Afghanistan, on and on. I can go to the countries. I just came back just a few days ago from a very successful tour in Afghanistan with the U.S. military, but also with the NATO troops. And I can't begin to tell you the success of it. We Black Hawked all over that nation, reaching our young men and women with a message of hope, because I represent hope to them. They look at me and say, if he can make it, I can make it. And that is why I went through what I went through, survived it. And God, who did not do this to me, he did not shoot me, he did not set me on fire, but he took my tragedy, turned it into a triumph. You can contact us through helpavet.com, helpavet.com, HELPAVET.com. And when you do, you will find 1,000 ways to get involved, financially, supporting, volunteering to help, all kinds of things. And we have ranches in South Texas, Colorado, and Oklahoma. And this is where the warriors come. They're sent by the Department of Defense to our program because we are the most successful program in any of the 501c3s that are out there trying to help these guys. And we are entirely accountable. Helpavet.com. I would love to hear from you.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Our founding fathers, despite their common love for America, did not always agree with each other in politics. Such was the case between John and Samuel Adams. John was the leader of the Federalist Party, and Samuel was the leader of the Anti-Federalist Party. Consequently, political disagreements were not unusual between these two. On October the 4th, 1790, Sam wrote John and told him, "Let ministers and philosophers, statesmen and patriots unite their endeavors to renovate the age by educating their little boys and girls and leading them in the study and practice of the exalted virtues of the Christian system." 2 weeks later, John wrote back and told Samuel that on this issue they both agreed. While these two prominent founding fathers disagreed on much, they both agreed on the importance of educating the next generation in the principles of Christianity.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Hey, this is Tim Barton with WallBuilders. And as you've had the opportunity to listen to WallBuilders Live, you've probably heard the wealth of information about our nation, about our spiritual heritage, about the religious liberties, about all the things that makes America exceptional. And you might be thinking, as incredible as this information is, I wish there was a way that I could get one of the WallBuilders guys to come to my area and share with my group, whether it be a church, whether it be a Christian school or public school or some political event or activity. If you're interested in having a WallBuilder speaker come to your area, you can get on our website at www.wallbuilders.com, and there's a tab for scheduling. And if you'll click on that tab, you'll notice there's a list of information from speakers' bios to events that are already going on, and there's a section where you can request an event to bring this information about who we are, where we came from, our religious liberties and freedoms. Go to the WallBuilders website and bring a speaker to your area.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. A couple of special programs for you this week, today and tomorrow, for Veterans Day, honoring those who have sacrificed so much for us and made it possible for us to be free. In our last segment, we heard from Dave Roever. Really appreciate his time and his incredible ministry. Encourage you to visit his website, which we'll have a link to today as well. Now we have Lee Wreyford with it. We've actually done a full program with Mr. Wreyford. He is a World War II veteran and a guest on our program that we've highlighted in the past. We asked him to come on and share some comments here for us on Veterans Day. Here's Lee Wreyford.
Hi, my name is Lee Wreyford. I was born and raised in Rochester, Haskell County, Texas, and that's some 70 miles to the north and a little west of Abilene, Texas, in 1926. And in a family of 4 children, an older brother, a sister, and myself, and a younger brother. And World War II came along, and I graduated from high school in 1943, and we were farmers in that area, but my dad was crippled from birth, and my younger brother and I, along with his brother, farmed about 1,000 acres of land at that particular time. I did not go into the service in 1943 because I graduated from high school at age 17, and I stayed on the farm to help with the farming and all. And even though my mother's uncle was head of the draft board in that particular county at the time, I had no problem, and really no problem later. But I did go into the service in 1944, May of that year, and so at that time I was 18 years of age. And got went to boot camp, San Diego, California. Had 6 weeks of boot training, and then we were bused to Coronado Island, which the area of San Diego is a plush area to live today, and also with the Navy SEALs today. But then it was a sandbar and went all the way down towards Mexico, I guess all the way some way. But spent 5 weeks in training to operate the landing crafts and other little duties connected with invasions and things of that nature on it. We were bused back into our regular old, where we had a boot training and had our meals and slept there and back to the island. Spent 1 day at Camp Pendleton, the Marine base in Southern California, in firearms. I never actually ever fired a rifle. Did get some training on the rifle and also on the 45 and that. And about 5 weeks into the middle of the 5th week on it, my name was called out late one afternoon to report to the grinder. Reported to the grinder. That was about a square block of asphalt there, which you did marching on and all this. And was informed that we had 2 hours to pack all of our personal items and report back to the grinder, and which we did. And they bused us into San Diego to the rail station, loaded us on the train, and basically sat in that area overnight, all night, and pulled out sometime during the early morning. And only moved about 100 and so miles to the north, went into the San Pedro, Long Beach, California area, naval yards there. And we boarded a ship, which we found out is where we were assigned. It was the USS Haskell, which was the first of the new Victory ships. And it was called the APA-117, which is Amphibious Personnel Attack. And this was when they were really getting underway and gearing for a fast, continually invasion of islands in the Pacific to rid the Japanese of all their nuisance and everything all through the Middle Pacific and in the whole bit there. So a couple of weeks, the ship was commissioned. We took it out on a little run and to get everything worked out back, and we sailed from there to San Francisco Bay Area, Alameda, and loaded personnel and left the next day, headed, as we found out later, for Fish Haven, New Guinea. And we were 19 days at sea on that particular voyage without seeing land. So we were doing a lot of zigzagging after we got past the Hawaiian area. And we went in through the Coral Sea and down below the Solomon Islands and on up in along into New Guinea, into Fish Haven, New Guinea. And then we went from there on into 4 or 5 other areas and ended up eventually after a stop at Bayek Island on into Numfor, N-O-O-M-F-O-R-E. And Numfor Island was the 12-mile diameter island, which is total elevation of 670 feet, and the Japs are building 3 airfields on that island for the invasion of Australia. So that was secured about September of 1944, and we spent Christmas of 44 there. And about 100 to 120 degrees. It depends on whether you're in the shade or whatever on it. And we had loaded elements of the 158th Regimental Combat Team from Bayek Island and dropped anchor off of Numfor, and they spent Christmas with us. They were the New Mexico, Arizona Indians. I'm not sure if they were the word talkers or the code breakers or whatever they were called there. We called them the Bushmasters because that was their name. Extremely fierce fighters, and that's who we took into the invasion of Luzon in the Philippines, which is the largest island in the Philippines. And after 2 days of in that particular area, they had dropped them. Radio messages had been received that they were going to burn 511 American POWs alive. And we immediately went back through the gauntlet of submarines through Subic Bay into the island of Leyte in the Philippines and loaded then elements of the 25th Armored Division. Brought them back in and run in convoy and just made a abrupt 90-degree turn, a 90-minute turn to the right. Went into the island again on Luzon, but below Lingan Gulf where the original invasion had been. And that was to cut the island in half in the escape route of the Japanese, and also to pull the 8,000 troops that were camped a mile from the front gate of that prison camp. And it was 121 volunteers laying in knee-high grass, had been all day of the 29th of January, 1945, and that night they hit the prison camp Cap Catavan and rescued all 511 prisoners alive. The Americans lost 2 killed and 23 wounded, and one of the killed personnel was the medical doctor. But one of the prisoners died in transit back to the American lines, which was 31 miles that they had crossed in 2 or 3 days undetected, and going back with ox carts and all of that. But anyway, it was an interesting time in the Navy. I did not ever get liberty when I was in boot training or afterwards. I never went to a USO show, never saw or heard of or anything else. I never had any liberty of any foreign island in the Pacific. Spent 20 continuous months at sea and made 3 invasions in that particular time. And we were the control boat of the invasion, and we went in with the first wave and stayed until we were relieved by incoming convoys. And we could then leave and go back and join the ship or get picked out of the water if they were still around. If they had to leave or pulled anchor and left on, they abandoned us, and we become scavengers of the beach. So I hope it gives you a little bit of a history of what it is on it, but we basically had covered about 139,000 miles and 10 trips across the Pacific Ocean. We've crossed the equator 4 times in wartime conditions. Rescued 500, got the part of the deal on the rescue of the 511 POWs. We also picked up 1,405 American prisoners of war off the mainland of Japan. Latter days of September, just at the end of the war, carried them to Manila for processing, getting them ready to be returned to the United States. I'm extremely proud, especially with the Army and the Marine Corps, the foot soldiers, the ones that have to get on the dirt and walk in and fight it and face it face to face on a day-to-day basis. Those are extremely brave men, and I think a tremendous amount of the glory needs to go to those people because they had it tough. I know it was tough in all branches at certain times on everything, but my basic one of the things that I think should be honored is the civilians in the United States, because it was a united effort. We pulled together as a united country, and as an example, Ford Motor Company was producing the B-24 Liberators, and they were producing one every 58 minutes. There's 2,220,000 parts on that plane, so they could turn 1 hour out, and so it was a continuous effort on all of those parts. And the same thing, the ship I was on, the first from the Haskell I was on, took 3 months to build it, and they built another 129, I think, in that Haskell class on it. They were turning those ships out at the rate of 1 every 3 days. The ship was 1.5 football field long, and it takes a tremendous coordinated effort on the part of the people here, and they sacrifice too. But it was what I'm proud of more than anything is that we were united. We worked as one source, and we didn't argue and fight, and didn't have all the unions and the corrupt and the no race problems. Basically, there were a few, but it wasn't anything major like it is now. Today, it's kind of a sad situation. Get the veterans to take care of the veterans. Don't have to let them fight. Don't let them have to starve to death and suffer. They're in there to defend you and give you the rights you need and the freedom that you have and all that. So don't come back and punish them again, which has happened all the way for the last 70 years. I think they have to put a little bit of trust in the man upstairs and get back in and unite and quit saying, oh, it can't happen to me and it can't all this, but get back to where people have a little respect for one another and get rid of their greedy ways on it. And everybody is so materialistic, you don't have to have a new BMW or one of these sorry Cadillacs that's produced today. Go back and be happy with in here and help thy neighbor.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. At the time of the American Revolution, numerous other nations also had revolutions, yet 200 years later, America is the only of those nations still under its original form of government. Is this just good luck? Not according to Founding Father Benjamin Rush. He declared, I do not believe that the Constitution was the offspring of inspiration, but I am as perfectly satisfied that it is as much the work of a divine providence as any of the miracles recorded in the Old and New Testament. George Washington agreed. In fact, he declared, I should be pained to believe that the United States have forgotten that divine interposition which was so often manifested during our revolution, or that they fail to consider the omnipotence of that God who is alone able to protect them. Our founders acknowledged that our national success had come from God.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us. Also, be sure and visit us online at wallbuilderslive.com and wallbuilders.com. I give you the websites again because we really want you to go to wallbuilderslive.com, click on this program, and share it with your friends and family today and tomorrow. Get tomorrow's program as well. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and so today and tomorrow we're doing some special programs. We're actually letting you hear from some of our veterans that we've had on the program in the past and give you a chance to hear their stories and just take a moment to be thankful for those who have sacrificed so much for us. The Bible says to render honor unto whom honor is due, and that there's no greater love than that someone would lay down their life for their friends, in this case for their fellow countrymen. And so today and tomorrow we're just having a lot of special guests. Earlier today we had Dave Roever and Lee Wreyford. Our next guest is Governor Rick Perry of Texas, another veteran that also does a great job of honoring his fellow veterans. Here's Governor Rick Perry.
Howdy, this is Texas Governor Rick Perry, a proud veteran of the United States Air Force. And like many Americans, including my father, who served in World War II, my time in service not only provided me great opportunities in my life, it helped shape me into the person that I am. My time as an Air Force pilot showed me a great big world beyond the small Texas community where I grew up. And more importantly, it connected me with some of the greatest individuals I've been honored to know. These patriots taught me a lot about how to do the right things the right way, and to never forget how privileged we were to wear the uniform of the United States of America. Those lessons have stayed with me, and I've seen them reflected in the eyes of the veterans I've been privileged to meet throughout my life. Whatever the branch of service, wherever the post, during time of war or peace, Our veterans personify the qualities of dedication and love of country that have made America a shining beacon of liberty around the world. We each need to remember, as we enjoy the blessings of the freedom our armed forces provide 365 days a year, to take time out to thank a veteran for everything they've done to keep our nation free. God bless you. And through you, may God continue to bless this great country of America.
Well, thanks for joining us today, folks. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live, special program for Veterans Day, which is tomorrow. Encourage you to find veterans in your life that you can go and just thank. And also not only thank them, but sit down with them and ask them to share their stories. Actually record their stories, especially if you have an elderly veteran in your life. Give them a chance to share some of the things they went through and the reason they were willing to sacrifice and why they were willing to sacrifice, and make sure that you save that for posterity. It's a great opportunity. And, of course, if you have some stories you'd like to share with us, please email those in to us, radio@wallbuilders.com. We often do programs here on WallBuilders Live about our veterans, and we get the chance to interview some of these amazing folks that have served and sacrificed so that we could be free. We got 3 of those interviews today. Be sure and join us again tomorrow on Veterans Day as we talk to some of those folks that have made it possible for you to be free. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.